Recorded live from the mats of Radical MMA in New York City. The Martial Culture Podcast. Your source for in-depth combat sports and martial arts insights with Coach Renee Dreyfus and Matt Peters. Ring the bell and let's get it on.
Oh, Matt couldn't make it to today's episode. Renee's all by himself. If you're wondering why I'm wearing 10 turtlenecks, because Stipe let us all down.
That was crazy. You know, I just had a student who said, I just listened to your last podcast where you said there's no way Stipe would lose. I'm like, oh, well.
I did say first round knockout.
Yes, you did. And, you know, the fight played out exactly like we thought in the beginning. And Daniel Cormier did not look good in the striking, and he got caught with 1-2s. He said afterwards, I listened to an interview, that he said that the punches weren't really affecting him hard. But I don't know about that. His movement looked a little off, and Stipe was really dominating. But then, I don't know what happened. And the one place where Daniel Cormier is very effective is the clinch. And his dirty boxing, his clinch game, because he's a Greco-Roman wrestler, his clinch game is really good, and you don't want to play with him there. And why Stipe engaged him in the clinch over and over is beyond me. But it was a good fight in terms of like
the four minutes of it.
The 4 minutes. It was intellectual because I listened to Daniel Cormier's interview afterwards, and this is what I really enjoyed. Was this? He's like, we watched tons of videotape on Stipe, and we found a place where we could beat him. And we noticed that when he was in clinch, he would drop his hands low. And I was going over it with one of my students who's also a striking instructor in my academy. He's like, yeah, you could see. He's like, I watched over and over again. You can see that he was baiting him to think about the clinch and thinking he was going to go for more of aggressive grappling. And then it was a total setup for the hook. And the hook was so tight. You know, you don't think it's so dangerous until you get hit with one of those. And, you know, I always say that Daniel Cormier doesn't have solid punching power. Now, in the clinch, he does. He's known as an uppercut guy in the clinch. In the clinch and uppercuts, he generates a lot of power. It's from the outside that I was talking about. And he doesn't generate power from the outside much, but unless you know that big haymaker that he does. But in the clinch, he's very effective. I've seen him throw a lot of really nasty uppercuts from the clinch. But this was interesting because I think Stipe also expected the uppercut. Because I'm sure Stipe was watching, or his coaches were watching some film. They're like, yeah, Daniel Cormier does the necktie, you know, neck control, head control, and then he throws uppercut. But in this case, he did head control, then he was fighting for that underhook, and then as soon as Stipe dropped his hand, which they were expecting, he dropped his hand really low, came over with the short hook and just dropped it. And I thought it was an elbow at first because it looks so tight, but that they probably practice that quite often. I think that's it's a triumph of, like, you know, really having a good coach. And Javier Mendez, who's Daniel Cormier coach, is a very tactical thinker. And I mean, there's a reason why there's a whole lot of champions coming out of AKA, because they have a few guys in that lead the charge that are really adept at looking at video and understanding how to approach a fight tactically. And whether it was Daniel Cormier or Javier Mendez, or whether it was Crazy Bob Cook, any of those guys at that or maybe a training partner, but they found a weakness where Stipe drops his hands in the clinch. And you could tell he was not respecting Daniel Cormier. There was a point where he was like, I'm going to beat this guy. And you could see it in Stipe's face. He's like, he hit him with a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and he just keeps connecting. And he's like, I got this. And then he even engaged the clinch, took Daniel Cormier's back, standing with the gut wrench, but just kind of let it go. And he was dominant until they clinched. And then it was like, whoa, what just happened? Mm-hmm. And I was in shock. It reminded me of what was the one where it was McGregor Jose Aldo, where it was like, bam, it was just over. You're like, what just happened? You know, you're like, that was a very short fight, and wasn't what you'd expect. I didn't expect it would end in the first round. I thought it would go longer, and I thought it would be a clinch fight. I thought Daniel Cormier will try for the clinch, and Stipe will reject the clinch. But he didn't. He did not reject it. He actually initiated it, and I'm like, wow, you're killing the guy on the outside. Why are you not staying on the outside? And Professor Ken, I watched the fights with Professor Ken, who has been on our podcast before, and we're looking at each other. We're like, why is he doing that? He's killing him from the outside. And then we're like, this is not what he should be doing. And like a second later, before Ken said, he probably shouldn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. A second later, he was knocked out. It was the triumph of a great strategy, and also on Stipe's part, who I have a lot of respect for, but in this performance, low fight IQ. Maybe a little tinge with a little arrogance. Who knows? I don't know. That's my take on the fight. And yes, I'm eating humble pie, saying that I thought Stipe would have a dominant performance, and that's not the case. But at the same time, a fight's a fight, and if you're not fighting with your tools in an intelligent way, you are always open for danger. And I say, never underestimate the power of anyone, and this goes for all my students and anyone out there. You never underestimate the power of someone to hurt you. And sometimes we get on our high horse, people who do jiu-jitsu or whatever, you're like, oh, I'm so trained. Like, dude, anybody can hurt you at any time if you're not expecting it this. And yet he didn't respect Cormier, and he kind of got a little arrogant in there, and he kind of initiated, like, man, that is not smart. Fight a smart fight. Yeah. So that's my take on it. What's your take?
Well, I went to sleep because I had no fears. I was not worried. I was 100% sure that Stipe was going to win. And then
I know, right?
5 minutes after I was sleeping in dreamland, my phone vibrates, and I'm awake.
Oh, did I wake you up? I'm sorry.
No. I opened my phone and I have a text from Renee. Was it 12:15 or 12:10? And just telling, just mocking me. I didn't have the energy to respond back, so I just closed my phone and went right back to sleep.
Let's see what this text is I sent you. Hold on. Where is it, Matt? I'm gonna pull it up. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So, man, you just have no luck.
Yeah.
Exclamation point 8 times.
Knowing my luck, Conor McGregor will be in jail next week.
And I threw you a bone. I let you take the dark horse, and I still won.
Double or nothing.
Poor Matt.
Round two.
Double or nothing.
No,
what are we waiting
no,
about?
No,
Okay.
I'm done. I'm out of the game.
Oh, come on.
Bad luck.
It makes it more. I'll take double or nothing.
I don't know what round two. What do they got? They're going to do a rematch?
No. I mean, what's the next one?
I don't even know what the next one.
Brock Lesnar, I guess, for him, which was it's ridiculous that Brock Lesnar should fight him. I was talking to the promoter of Premier FC, and she was very critical because Brock Lesnar is a 5-3 fighter, riding a bunch of losses. How he immediately gets a title shot over so many more deserving people is ridiculous. But at the end of the day, and I think as martial artists, we really don't like this part, but at the end of the day, it is entertainment. And spectacle sells. And you know what's interesting? I was watching this movie last night. You ever seen the movie Battle of Sexes that came out about the Billie Jean King, Billy Riggs tennis rivalry? And I was alive at the time.
Steve Carell, right?
Yeah. It's actually a really good movie, and it deals with a lot of topics. And when I was alive, it's like seeing something that you experienced as on the sidelines, and then the movie. And from what I understand, it's a legitimate portrayal. The movie shows you the inside, and you realize that Bobby Riggs played this incredible male chauvinist pig, and and it's all made up. Mm-hmm. He doesn't believe any of it. He doesn't believe any. What he did was he wanted to create a spectacle. And he said, this is what's going to sell in this 1970s with women's lib, and this is an issue. And he's like, his wife is a very successful and liberated woman. And she's like, why are you saying all this? He says, because it's going to sell. And he doesn't believe it's just, we crave drama. Like we were talking about in our last pod, we crave drama and we crave spectacle. And I would say most MMA fans, even guys who are, trained, they are just as interested in drama and spectacle as they are in technique. And the people who don't train are interested in drama and spectacle, not the violence. And I it's funny because I have a very good best friend, and he's a little bit critical of my love of MMA because he just sees it as violence. And I'd say, most fans, while they want to see some action and things like that, they really love the drama, the spectacle. And, in this movie, this tennis movie, this guy created the spectacle out of thin air. And it was like, the biggest tennis game of the generation. And the same thing with Brock Lesnar fighting Daniel Cormier, it's the new, Brock Lesnar's the Conor McGregor before Conor McGregor, and he can just bring in so many eyes to the pay-per-view, and everybody's gonna watch it. You know they're gonna watch it. The same thing with Conor McGregor versus Khabib in Russia. You know it's gonna happen, and every single person on the planet's gonna tune in. Look at Mayweather McGregor.
Yeah.
Total ridiculous fight, ridiculous, and yet it's like one of the most watched boxing matches.
It.
Yeah. I did not watch it. I
didn't pay for it, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't pay for it. It was there was this the Instagram feed or YouTube feed or Twitter feed of my wife, and we watched a little bit, but I'm not paying for this crap.
No.
But it's one of the most watched boxing matches in history, and nobody watches Lomachenko. Lomachenko, who is the best, most gifted boxer of a generation, up there with the greatest boxers of all time. And people don't watch him, and then they watch freaking McGregor and Conor and Mayweather. Like it's just ridiculous. So it's spectacle and is part of show business. And and as a martial artist, I know lots of martial artists who just can't stand that part. I guess it's the price we pay to have MMA.
I like the drama and the spectacle when it doesn't feel forced. Like I know that in some level there's always some fakery behind.
So who is your favorite drama creator?
Cormier and Jones. That was my favorite. The back and forth between them felt real.
Oh, it's totally real. Yeah. That was real.
I like that. Like when
they
were
Cormier, whatever Cormier says is real. I don't think he stages anything. Yeah. I think he's just like, this is who I am.
I think they hate each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see on The Ultimate Fighter that he loves to like needle, and he was needling Stipe in The Ultimate Fighter in a friendly way. I think he does it well. That he not trash talks, but he needles guys, and he banters. Banters is the best word. Yeah. He banters in a way that's funny. And not really like nobody would get really pissed off, but you're like, you got a bit, like a little bit of trolling, and he has a little Ali kind of thing going on there where you enjoy what he says. I really don't like that about Conor McGregor. I don't like anything what he says is stupid and childish. And some people feel that Chael Sonnen was good at creating drama. I think he went too far. But he definitely riled people up.
Tito Ortiz and Shamrock.
Yes, that was good. That was good, and that was real. Oh, that was totally real. Yeah, I mean
Today
that started. That feud started way back when. That was not fake at all because it started when the two camps, the two teams, their junior guys would fight each other, and they created that rivalry as coaches, and that was a real
that
rivalry.
Ultimate Fighter season. I know you don't really watch it for the
drama. I didn't see that season.
Oh,
no.
That was a good one.
Oh, really? What happened?
It was just a whole bunch of back and forth between them and their teams. And they're which team's going to win, and then they fight, and it's just it was 16 episodes of drama.
Yeah.
But real drama, not Brock Lesnar walking into the ring and pushing people.
You know what? We talked about this, and I think Brock Lesnar's just an asshole. I don't think that's fake. I think he's just an asshole. He's a bully and an asshole and a cheater, and he's weak, and he's mentally weak. Brock Lesnar is mentally weak. And you want to hear a story? And this goes back. It goes to the card. I mean, people also talk about the Cormier fight. There's the Nagano fight, which is a disaster. But mental toughness is something that you have to have. And Japanese martial arts put a premium on that. If you talk to Japanese, they'll say, what is the most important aspect of fight? They go, seishin, spirit, your spirit, your mental toughness. And that's, what? Technique is important. That's sure. And then some Japanese fighters tend to neglect technique for more the mental side. But, like Japanese fighters, they love going in the waterfall and staying in the ice cold waterfall for, 10 minutes and, doing all the Spartan training and build that toughness. And that is really important because Brock Lesnar, this is what he did. I think we talked about this before, but he had his own training group that he left an academy and went to his own training group, and he hired his sparring partners, which a lot of people do. But he realized that the sparring partners had the scuttlebutt was that anytime they beat the snot out of him, he would be like really pissed and threaten to kind of fire them. And then they knew to go light on him because if they wanted to keep their jobs. And a lot of him became like this entourage of people who would support him and make him feel good. And instead of like really pushing him and training him hard. So he surrounded himself with an entourage of sycophants rather than real training partners and used his financial power over them to make sure that every training session went his way. And you're going too hard, da, 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 da. And is mentally weak bully. And you can see that the minute, he gets hit in the face really hard. He's like, didn't take enough steroids. And, I've got diverticulitis. Pfft, give me a break.
Yeah.
He broke, and he's going to come back because he wants the payday. But Daniel Cormier will break him again because Brock Lesnar is mentally weak.
Yeah.
And the same, Ronda Rousey broke. I'm not saying she's mentally weak. I think she's mentally strong, but she got put into an environment which can break down your strength. You become delusioned, and you believe in these delusions, and then when they break, they break you. And then look at the Francis Ngannou fight. You saw it, how awful it was.
Yeah, it was drawn out.
It was nothing happened, and he was punch shy, so punch shy. I mean, what happened was Stipe broke him.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're a bully personality, and I think Brock Lesnar is an actual bully, but I don't mean a bully when I say a bully personality. What I mean is this, is that you like when the things are going good. So if I'm on top of you, mashing you, you get stronger, you get more, I'm mashing you, you can't take it when you're the mashy. When you're underneath the guy, you're like, you just tap out or whatever. Like, you have to, in training, you have to go to those hard places all the time to develop that strength. Mental strength is not like something that just creatively imagined. Like, you have to push. You have to go into those bad positions and just live there. And if you don't, you will break. And Ngannou is a perfect example of a guy who's physically really able. And we talked about this on another podcast, where you're the most athletic guy in your training camp. So they can't put you in those positions. But you know what? You know what I heard about Ngannou's last camp with Stipe? I heard this. I was shocked. Do you know, in the entire camp, he said, "I'm not going to grapple. I don't like it. I'm not going to grapple." Like, that really worked well for him.
Yeah.
You're an idiot. The thing you're the worst at, you're just going to avoid. You're a coward, and you're mentally weak. And he was brought up too fast. It's kind of maybe not his fault, but he's brought up too fast and brought to the glitter and this and that. And he's just, mentally didn't develop the toughness to go into those dark places. And if you're not doing that, man, all the technique in the world is not going to save you. And then Daniel Cormier, I know you don't like him, but this guy is freaking iron will. I remember when John Jones just wrecked him and he just started crying. He was like, fuck. He's soul-crushing defeat. And the rivalry, you just said, the rivalry between them was absolutely real. And they freaking hate each other. And he's the last person in the world that he wants to lose to. Mm-hmm. And he got shellacked. And he's like, motherfucker.
I love when Jones came over to say,
he's like, yeah, right. Get away from me. And then, he's like really crying. I mean, the guy was really in tears. And, a lot of people would have just given up on that. But he came back, and he's like, I'll put it behind me. I will put it behind me, and I will move forward. And that is, like, I know you're not a DC fan, but that is what it's about. Man, you have these horrible things that happen to you. You know what? Put it in the rearview mirror, hit the gas, and go to gear 5 and just push forward. And now the guy is only the second person in the entire history of the UFC to hold 2 belts at the same time. I don't care what you think about this fight or the fights before, or, not John Jones being there. That is an impressive, absolutely impressive accomplishment to come back from a soul-crushing defeat and have that mental willpower to say, I'm going to get back in at the next day and do the gym. And who was also iron will is George St. Pierre. He lost to Matt Serra. I heard the next day he was, bam, ready, no break, nothing. Next day, ready to train. And he's like, let's fix it. And he came back and just, the second time he fought Matt Serra, I don't know if you've seen that. It's just like one of the worst beatdowns I've seen in the UFC history. Came back stronger. And to me, that's what martial arts is. There's a proverb in Japanese, 7 times down, 8 times up. Now, why do we train martial arts? Okay, there's a certain point where we're going to want to defend ourselves and get in shape and blah, blah, blah. But after that, why do you do it? We always say, oh, well, it affects your life. It helps your life. How does it help your life? How does it help your life? Okay, well, you're in better shape or this, that. Mental strength, focus, awareness, all these things are true. But at the end of the day, life is a fight. Life is a battle. Like, and people don't realize, I always say that Matt here, I tease him and I'm kind of mean to him and I choke him, which I will do later. But Matt, you're incredibly impressive. That this person who built this Gotham podcast studio, which we're here, is the most amazing, impressive setup. And it was built by this great guy in front of me by his sheer force of will and guts and, hard work. And life is a fight. you don't think whether it's a fight to get through the day of a hard job, whether it's a fight to fight for your dreams, whether it's a fight to, just get over a bad breakup or whatever life throws at you. You think life is easy, life isn't easy. It's the fight 7 times down, 8 times up. Whatever throws at you, fuck you, life. I'm getting back up. Mm-hmm. Oh, John Jones knocked me out with one of the worst highlight reel high kicks ever. You know what? Next day, I'm practicing high kick defense, and I'm going back in, and I'm going to come back and be the champion. I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to beat Anthony Johnson. I'm going to beat Ozdemir. I maintain then I go to the heavyweight, and I become only the second title belt holder in the history of the UFC. Wow. Man, you earn my respect. There's no quit. Whereas other fighters, where they have a challenge and they just get crushed, they retire and go to the WWE and complain about diverticulitis. That was Brock Lesnar, not Ronda Rousey. That I was talking about. But I guess I don't want to trash on Ronda. I think in Ronda's case, it was, she is mentally strong, but she got so wrapped up in a bad group. Yeah. That it chipped away at that. It brought her to a different place, and then she couldn't come back from that. But bully personalities are naturally weak, and Brock Lesnar is a weak-willed piece of steroid garbage.
I think the thing that I didn't like the most about the Brock Lesnar thing is that, while I can believe that Brock Lesnar is an asshole and loves to get into scrums and all that kind of shit in the ring, why didn't the UFC stop it?
But he was so fast. He was so fast.
He was in there for like also, 3-4 minutes, pushing people around.
Oh, really?
DC pushed him back.
Oh, right. Well,
And Dana White's just standing alone. Yeah. Oh, what's going on?
You know what? Let me tell you. If DC and Cormier were pushing each other, I would not get in between them. Those are two big dudes, man.
Well, they got especially
DC now. Do you see how his belly was huge, man?
You got Joe Rogan there, who's a beast, and you got Dana White, who looks like he's on steroids. They could pull him apart.
No way. That's hard. That's actually really hard.
Well, then
actually, can I tell you something? That this is a misunderstanding of fighting, and this is not to disrespect you, Matt, and I totally respect.
How dare you?
But let me tell you. One of the most dangerous things in self-defense, I was talking about my self-defense class, one of the absolutely most dangerous things out of all self-defense scenarios is getting in between two people and trying to pull them apart. It's extremely dangerous. And actually, I am aware of a situation where that tried to happen in a few situations, but one particularly in my close circle of people I understand, and teachers and stuff, where one trained person tried to get in between two people and wound up basically suffering injuries that lasted for the rest of his life and really messed him up. So getting in between people and trying to stop a fight is incredibly difficult, and there's no way I would stand in between. You have to come behind one and pull them away, or do multiple people, and you have to be trained to it. A lot of bouncers have some training with that. It's a specific fighting skill, like a jab, like a cross, how to diffuse two people fighting each other. And if you do it alone, it's almost impossible without taking some damage.
You remember the time?
But going back to the point, I'm not negating it. I think probably they're like, well, as long as they're not hurting each other, this is going to make us more money.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because there's post Zuffa sale.
We're in a different world now.
Yeah. Zuffa, when they ran it, and now the new owners, it's totally different. Yeah. They want a little bit more razzmatazz because they are tremendously in debt. The hedge fund group sold it. But how did they sell it for? A couple, like $1 billion something. I don't even know. It's a huge amount of money, and they have to recoup their losses. And razzmatazz, drama, shenanigans, these things which I detest. I absolutely detest. So, and you know what? The funny thing is, Daniel Cormier really didn't like that. He really didn't. I don't think he was acting. And you know what? I'll tell you what. His kids were in there with him. And Brock Lesnar is, shouting off obscenities. Like, who would want their young kids shouting off obscenities? Someone shouting off obscenities in front of your young kids. Nobody would want that.
He called him out, didn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, calling him out and then saying you want to fight, and then you could call someone out and you could make it happen, and then taking it to another level is another thing.
You got it under the table. Here's $10,000 for calling out Brock Lesnar.
Right. Yeah. And then probably they told him to do that too. Hey, let's make a big fight.
Why is everybody calling out Brock Lesnar? John Jones called him out, and DC
because he'll bring the WWE audience. He's still a huge draw. He's huge.
Somebody call out The Rock. I want The Rock in the UFC.
Yeah, no. But Brock Lesnar actually can, the guy was a D1 All-American. Yeah. He has some skill and he's trained, and he was Brock Lesnar was the former champion for a little bit.
What, for like a 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Jesus Christ.
UFC Hall of Fame, probably.
Oh my God.
They love putting people in the UFC Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, speaking of Hall of Fame, there's a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame who never fought. So we had that discussion.
I know, yeah.
There's like I forgot who it was.
The janitor, I think.
Joel Silva, the matchmaker, was put in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not just fighters; it's like people who contributed to the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right.
You
No,
contributed.
I did not.
Rat guard.
Oh yeah, but I mean, let me tell you, the way the jiu-jitsu world is really interesting is that it's an open source of hundreds and hundreds of people contributing, and mine is a small contribution, and definitely I think I've added something to the conversation of MMA jiu-jitsu, but I'm just
Be in the
small
podcast MMA Hall of Fame.
podcast.
Let's start
Hopefully
it.
someday.
Let's start it right
now.
now.
But
You and Chael Sonnen.
yeah, oh God. But so what was your I want to hear your take on the Ngannou fight though. That I told you he's like the guy's mentally broken, and he fought a guy with a bad back, Derek Brunson, who sucks. I mean, let's get
He missed weight, didn't he? Did he miss weight, or he was? No, we
Something.
were watching the undisputed or the behind the scenes thing. And he was cutting weight, and he's a heavyweight. It's like, God, you can't get to 265 without cutting.
And his back is injured too, so you couldn't put it on a guy. This hyper athlete Ngannou, you couldn't put it on a guy who has a bad back and is not in his best shape. Like that's a problem. And it's not that you have to beat him, but you're just afraid to engage.
Mm-hmm.
And
Gun shy.
Total gun shy. And that's happened a lot of times. People come back get a loss, a really big loss. Usually it's a KO.
Mm-hmm.
But they get a really big loss, and then they're never the same. Never the same. And I think maybe we've seen the end of Ngannou in the mix of the heavyweight champions. He kind of reminds me of some of the guys who came and went, like Czech Congo, who were like, oh my God, Czech Congo, or this or that. Were just like they came and went. They big splash and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that Czech Congo wasn't a good fighter. Just he's a little bit more of a kickboxer, and so adjusting to MMA was maybe a little more difficult. But he came with a big splash. The same thing with Sukaju. The same thing with Brock Lesnar. The same thing with these guys that came and went, and they don't have that lasting power. And I think the heavyweight division is kind of suffers from that.
Yeah.
But
I really like Ngannou. The first time I saw him, I was like, this guy is an animal.
he seems pretty cool too.
Yeah, any interviews I've seen, he's pretty down to earth and normal, and just couldn't handle losing.
Yeah, and also this happened to George St. Pierre, the PR train, the champion train. It gets to you. You can't train the same way, and also you get a little bit big head. Even some of the most humble persons, you're going to get a little big head, and then to say to your camp, I'm not going to work on grappling, just shows that you will never be a champion again.
Right.
You're mentally weak already. Or you just have an inflated sense of yourself. One or the other, which is actually kind of the same thing,
Yeah. Just do some DMT trips and just get one with himself.
There's a lot to be said for that. I
Meditation.
have not done that, but these people talking about the what's that ayahuasca trips and
I can
things
get you
like
some DMT. You want to do that?
that. What is DMT?
I don't know what it stands for because it's a long medical term, but it's basically like bootleg ayahuasca.
Oh, right.
But it only lasts 10 minutes.
Oh, really? Interesting. But, it's interesting because ketamine and all these other drugs that we sort of terrible, but they're when they discover their pharmacological effects, they can see a lot of positive effects for soldiers with PTSD. Ketamine is like the first line now is coming to be the first line of defense for people who are suicidal because it suddenly kind of re-jumps their brain. And I think this like drugs are bad culture that we've had has stopped, particularly with cannabis, has stopped the ability for researchers to, without onerous restrictions, really explore the more positive sides. I've never done drugs in my life. I've never smoked marijuana. I have never smoked a cigarette. I have not had a drink of alcohol since 1993. So I'm not a person who goes and smokes up. I'm not a 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu guy. But at the same time, let's scientifically see how these things can be beneficial, and hey, maybe that is a way to get in touch with yourself and reconnect with your inner warrior. Who knows? I don't know. We don't know if you don't actually study it, And I know a lot of people who, when I lived in Japan, for about a week, minimum a week, sometimes more, I would go off to a Zen temple. And I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in any, higher power or anything like that. But the Zen temple, where it's basically you get a vow of silence and you sit there and you stare at a wall for 12 hours a day and you clean and you just prepare food and you eat. That's it. But it became this like weird recentering that was very helpful for me. And I'd come back and my judo, because at that time I was training judo, my judo would just be on point. My focus, my awareness. So there's something to be said for the different styles of training a mental game, whether like you brought up meditation, whether it's something more. I know. Machida took some sort of banned substance, but it's not. It wasn't. It was not a steroid. It was a mood effect. It affected your mood. It was like It was DHEA, which is an over-the-counter supplement, which helps you promote like a sense of calmness. And he said that helped him get into the zone better. And it eventually became a banned substance. But it's not. It doesn't promote muscle or anything like that. And the same thing with there's some science for ZMA. Have you ever heard of ZMA?
Yeah.
It's a supplement that was created that's supposed to get you more, in the zone and on the like more happy. Like it helps you just reach your happy place better. And a lot of people are like, why do you have to use drugs to get there? Well, what you can do is the supplementation can help you get to the first step and teach your body how to get there on its own. Right. Particularly if you're dealing with depression or some sort of PTSD. I have a number of soldiers in my academy who are dealing with the after effects of seeing severe combat, and the martial training regimen is helping them tremendously, at least, my small part. And but there's also other aspects of they're seeing therapists and some medication, things like that, a number of them. And, that's a whole multi-pronged approach to treating that thing. And whether you're dealing with that level of depression or PTSD, or you're dealing with the fighter coming back from, a really horrible loss, coming back from something tragic is a battle. And maybe you can't always have that mental strength on your own. That's okay. So you reach out to other people and they can help bring you that 8 times up again.
That's hard.
Sometimes you can't do it on your own.
That's hard in probably the athletic community for males to admit that they need help with mental things. Very hard and totally really important. Yeah. And so the mental game is it. And just saying down I need a mental. It was Andre Agassi. Do you know Andre Agassi, the tennis player? So I don't really follow tennis that much. Why we're talking so much about tennis today? But Andre Agassi, supposedly, this was told to me, that he went through a period where he was just in a slump and just like went from like the top 10 to like the top 90, which is like nothing, right? Yeah. He hired a mental coach, and boom, his game came back. But he had the presence of mind, and he also had some internal demons too. I believe there was some, he turned to drugs a little bit, and this, and again, maybe it's a type of kind of you want to self-medicate to push away those demons that you have to deal with. But he hired a mental coach, did the mental work, and clawed his way back to the championship, became the champion again. And it shows like, wow, mental training is so key. And I'll tell you, I've seen so many fighters. So many fighters, where I'm like, time to hang up the gloves, buddy. You just don't have it mentally. I didn't say it in those words, but man, you just don't have it. And it's dangerous to put you there. And, they're not also willing to seek out or do the work mentally to get to that place. And, when I say 7 times down, 8 times down, it's not to shame people for being weak. Weakness is not, it's human. It's great. You're sometimes going to have these pits where you fall into. You can try to claw yourself up, but sometimes you can't do it alone. You get your brotherhood, your sisterhood, or hire a professional to pull you back. And in the fight game, you hire that mental coach. You hire this guy. You come and we as human beings are more than the sum of our parts, meaning the parts not ourselves, but the community we surround yourself with. So you surround yourself with those people who will build you back up, not delusion. Yeah, no yes men.
No yes men. The people who are going to make you face those hard truths and make you say, "This is what you did." And I'll be honest with you. I've retired from fighting, but if I ever came back, the first thing I would have to do was pull up the video of my one loss, watch it over and over and over again, and sit there with Professor Ken or someone great striking coach, but preferably Professor Ken, and say, how can I make sure this never happens again? And how can I learn from this? How can this? And you have to eat it. And let me tell you, watching that loss for me just burns a laser beam right through my heart. It's so hard for me to watch it.
Not watched it in a while?
No. It just, every single time I watch it, it's like being shot.
Wow.
It's so crushing for me to watch it. But I know exactly what happened, and I know. But if I were going to go back in the ring, and even now I'm trying to learn from it because I know exactly what I did wrong, and I make sure if I'm shadowboxing or if I'm teaching, hey, don't do this. This is what I did. But if I went back into the fight game, the first thing I would do, sit down with Professor Ken, and let's watch it 100 times, and let's make sure this doesn't happen again. What else am I doing wrong? Here, okay, this. What else? What can I do? This. How can I fix this? Where should I go? Here. And I reach out to those people who I tremendously respect to pull me up. Now, of course, the emphasis may be a little from me, but I can't do it alone. And sometimes, the things that happen to us are so devastating. The losses are so crushing, like Daniel Cormier just absolutely hating to lose to John Jones. Mm-hmm. And you just see his face. And there was an interesting meme about that. It was his face, and he's crying, and it was like people are making fun of him. I don't know if you know when he lost to John Jones, people just brutalized him on the internet. Oh, he's not a man.
One of them. I apologize.
No, he's like, oh, he's not a man. He's such a pussy. Blah blah blah. Man, you don't know what it's like to strive for something that level and fall short. And it's so hard to every single moment of your life striving for that great thing, and then to have this motherfucker just kick you in the face and put you down like it's nothing. You're like, fuck. But to come back from that, and I'm sure Daniel Cormier didn't do it alone, but he reached out, and he also listened to the coaches, and I would not be surprised if he had a mental coach. I would not be surprised. I'm sure he does. Someone in that team. And then Nagano's got to do that. Man, you gotta like, dude, you're gun shy. You are gun shy. And this is what we learn from martial arts is like how to overcome those those tragedies, how to overcome those the big or small. Man, I am not letting you put me in the dirt, motherfucker. Yeah. I'm getting up. I'm clawing out.
I think we need somebody like Daniel Cormier to come out and speak about his struggles in a more open. I know he probably has, but
that would be great.
The
I would
stigma
love
needs
to hear
be
that.
broken for this toxic masculinity that says I can't go to therapy.
Yeah,
I've been to therapy. Fuck it. Everybody needs therapy at some point in their life.
Absolutely.
They all need help. So there's got to be somebody. And I think Daniel Cormier being a great public speaker and having going through it himself, I'd love to hear his story.
There's a great movement in jiu-jitsu now, and it's mostly in the sport jiu-jitsu, but it's called Submit the Stigma. Mm-hmm. And it's a stigma of mental illness. It's spearheaded by, I forgot her name, Christina Barlin, who is a black belt champion in the jiu-jitsu world and just phenomenal practitioner. But she opens up about her history of, I believe, being sexually assaulted and then being in an abusive relationship and how jiu-jitsu helped her. Mm-hmm. And it was one area where she surrounded herself by a positive community and brought herself up. But the other thing was there's no stigma in seeking out mental help. There's, submit the stigma, meaning, hey, go out there and find who you need to do to crawl your way back up. And everybody will find some point when they're in that pit. Mm-hmm. They're just down. You ever see that the Batman movie, the third movie with Christian Bale, when he's in the pit, he's stuck. And that's a great metaphor for life, where you climb and you fall, you climb and you fall. But eventually you do climb yourself out. Maybe you don't climb yourself out with just your help, but somebody throws you down a rope. Somebody helps you see what you can become, your inner warrior. Mm-hmm. And whether it's coming back from a devastating loss or coming back from a personal tragedy or having the courage like you to quit the day job, the 9 to 5, and say, I'm going to rock and roll and do my own thing. Man, to have that mental strength is it's tremendous, but something we can't do it alone. I know you have a wonderful wife who's always in your corner and pushing you. And we are human beings. We are social animals. To think you can be Clint Eastwood in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the lone guy on the West and ride off in the sunset, that is bullshit. Mm-hmm. That is absolute bullshit. That's, again, that Hollywood fake bullshit. No, you go with your... And that never existed in the cowboy world. That let me tell you.
Well, posses, that's what posses are.
Right. But I don't know if you guys know, but I used to work in a ranch, and I've been around the West guys. I was trying to train to be a farrier, and I love horses, and I love that Western culture too. Let me tell you, if you delve into the Western culture, it was never the lone guy riding off the. That's a Hollywood creation. What it was the cowboys. Cowboys were herders who would herd cattle, and they would work together as a team. Like firemen work together as a team, like police work together as a team, my fight gym works together as a team, like the ancient clans of the samurai, like the Scottish Highlanders, like the Spartans. We're humans, and we are our best when we surround ourselves with people who can help us see our best, and recover from the trials, the tribulations, the punches that life sets at us. Mm-hmm. And Daniel Cormier is an inspiration, and I think Ngannou has to learn from that. And the interesting thing, we were talking about the Ultimate Fighter before the Adesanya card was the Ultimate Fighter was the night before this. Did you see the championship fight? It was just interesting because one guy basically he kind of stopped fighting. And I was talking, we're looking like, why is this guy stop fighting? In the third round, he just stops. And he just allows himself to get pummeled. And he's also better. I mean, there's no question this fighter. I don't want to say names because it sounds like I'm trash talking, but it was I actually can't remember his name, but it was Trezano versus I forgot his name. Anyway, but he basically just gave up. Mm-hmm. And something happened mentally there. I don't even know what. And he's shaking his head, and like, I did bad. Like he knew it, but he couldn't rev himself up. But I think this kid's a warrior, and he realized that something was off, something was wrong. It could be that he was injured, but it didn't seem like it because he just stopped fighting. And there's, at the end of the day, the mental strength is what propels you into that ring and propels you into life. And hopefully he'll surround himself by trainers who can overcome, because the kid is really good. But you can have all the technique in the world. If you don't have that mental fortitude and the ability to push forward, you're not doing martial arts. Mm-hmm. You're doing Asian-inspired aerobics. That's what it is. That's the whole martial journey. Yeah. We talked about the hero's journey. You come back with the will of iron, but you can't do that alone. Don't think you can do that alone. You have to have a lot of people supporting you.
Don't do it alone.
Yeah. So that's my take on that.
Wow. All right. So UFC 227, the card as it is so far, which things probably change. I mean, I was really disappointed with Max Holloway.
Yeah.
We didn't even get into that. That was disappointing that he had to step out.
Yeah. And talk about concussions. That's it. These Hawaiian guys, they're mentally tough, but to the point where maybe the training is not so safe. There's so many Hawaiians that have that.
Much.
No, there's so many Hawaiians that they just brawl out in the gym, and hopefully he's okay. But I think also we're watching this generation of MMA fighters who are going to exhibit a lot of symptoms of brain trauma, especially the ones that come from the camps where they just kill each other, and that's sad. There's another thing about MMA that's that it is what it is. Boxing's even worse. But you ever been to a boxing gym? Half the people talk like this, because they're brain trauma.
That's not funny.
No, it's not. It's not funny. No. That's why Mike Tyson talks like that.
Yeah.
That's not his list. I mean, he has a high pitched voice, but that's exacerbated by brain trauma. As so does almost every. You can hear it in almost every boxer.
Yeah.
He has that little bit, like the little slower.
Yeah.
That's pugilistic dementia.
Oh man, I just thought of a really horrible joke. I'm not going to say. So,
you can't leave me hanging, buddy.
Let's say Muhammad Ali had that towards the end.
Oh, of course, absolutely, yeah.
That was kind of the whatever. So, Dillashaw versus Garbrandt.
Oh my God, I cannot wait for that.
I'm sticking with Dillashaw.
Really?
Garbrandt has a lot of health issues.
No kidding, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
he couldn't walk for a while because he had some sort of something with his back, so he had surgery. He was out for a year. He's got health issues.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I'm sticking with Dillashaw.
Well, he definitely won that last fight, but again, it was funny because it's kind of played out by like this one where in the beginning Garbrandt, was winning. He dropped him too. Mm-hmm. You remember that Garbrandt dropped Dillashaw, and then he's kind of running a clinic, and then suddenly comes back in the next round, and Dillashaw just boom.
Yeah.
I don't remember how he won. He won with it was a punch though. I forgot how he won, but
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Johnson versus Henry Cejudo.
Cejudo.
Yep, I know.
Wow. Wow.
Demetrius Johnson coming back.
I'm just ashamed for you. I'm mispronouncing Spanish names.
Cajudo.
Cajudo. Jesus
America.
Christ. Do you eat tortillas?
Tortillas? Tackles? You like tackles?
Matt Cejudo.
Cejudo. Win some more fights and I'll pronounce your name right. How about this one? Alexander Gustafsson.
Oh, he's back. Yeah.
Fighting Volkan Ozdemir.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting fight. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but Cejudo's fighting Demetrius Johnson again, huh?
Yeah. We'll see.
Good, yeah. But Cejudo's one of the guy who he gets better every time. He comes back stronger and stronger. And obviously, being an Olympian, you have some serious mental strength, particularly wrestling. That's the everybody I've known from wrestling. It's something about like Nathan, your brother-in-law. Something about guys who did wrestling. They just develop an iron will, and it doesn't leave them for the rest of their lives. It's one reason why we don't think of martial arts wrestling as a martial art, but wrestling is absolutely a martial art. Never met anybody from a serious wrestling program that was mentally weak. I'm sure they exist, but very, very rare. And Brock Lesnar is an example of the contra example, where he is right now at his point not mentally strong, but wrestling can develop a strength in you. And Cejudo is something else.
It's Cajudo.
It is not Cajudo.
Coming up really soon is a
Matt,
fight night.
I'm going to choke you out, Matt.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She's back again.
Oh, she's back. Wow.
Yeah, she's fighting
some great fighters.
Tisha Torres.
Tisha Torres.
That's the fight
She's
fight
fighting
night
Tisha Torres. No kidding.
in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Well,
In Canada.
Tisha's going to get wrecked.
Yeah, that's just a confidence builder.
Yeah. The UFC does that. They kind of throw you like some easier fights to claw your way back.
Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier,
yeah. Now he's all afraid. Don't worry, I will only correct you on the Latino names, all right?
Jose Aldo.
It's actually Jose. It actually is Jose.
Any other names? Oh, wow, this one. GADZHIMUARAD.
Wait, hold on. Let me see it.
Gadzmurad.
Gadzmurad. Yeah, the sort of
Anti-glove.
Eastern European, Dagestani kind of names.
This is riveting audio for our listeners.
Yes, okay.
Pronouncing fighters' names that you've never heard of.
I think that's now but I know what you're doing, Matt. You're pushing
Islam Makhachev.
So I'm taking my
Hakeem.
time so we're not doing a double or nothing, right?
I'm not betting anymore. Just choke me so I can get on with my day.
So if people
you're going to do some sort of like
gi choke, right?
Choke.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
I'm
not wearing a gi,
no, but you're wearing
am I appropriately
jacket. Yes.
dressed? Okay.
You dress.
Should I stand or?
No, you can sit there and
just going to relax and just hang out.
Yeah.
Should I take my headphones off? Or?
Whatever you want.
Whatever I want. I want to run away. All right. As with the other two losses I've had, Renee is now getting in the position behind me. You'll hear my voice start to waver, and I'm dying. I'm tapping out.
That wasn't so bad, was it?
No, I do that all day.
I was very nice. So that is a double.
Like a little rug burn there too.
Yeah, double lapel choke. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Give you a little. Oh. Yeah. Oh, tell your wife you got choked out because it's gonna look like a hickey instead.
Renee choked me today. Are you sure? There's video.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. I love
podcast.
this. I love this episode today.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. Yeah.
You loved it because you're a sadist. That's why you got into martial arts. Please rate, review, share, and subscribe.
I just enjoy being mean to you, Matt. That's like, I'm the owner of this podcast studio. We will not do this podcast anymore.
No violence in here.
No.
I'm not betting ever again, so I will
Why
never
not?
be choked
Come
again.
on. Okay. It wasn't so bad, was it?
No, it wasn't bad. It was the best of the three. The last one with the
Japanese.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, that was a tough
And then
one.
the first one, obviously.
Yeah, you squirmed. That's why it was bad, because you squirmed on the last one.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, you got to eat it.
I didn't move on this one. I did stretch out my neck a little bit. I felt like that helped. I don't know if that made it worse, probably. The first time you choked me, my neck was sore for like 2 days.
Really?
Yeah, my voice sounded weird.
Oh my God, I'm sorry to hear that.
And I the papers. I'm suing you. The papers are coming. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week. There's no fights coming up.
No, not for a
We
bit.
got to figure
Yeah.
out what we're going to talk about. We got to go deep on it or
We
something.
go deep, yeah.
Maybe we
Time
get a
to
guest.
get some guests. Yeah, we have to get some guests.
If you want to be a guest on the show, send us a message
Yeah, especially
on
if your name is
Facebook.
Damian Maya.
Oh, yeah, we didn't shit on Damian Maya today. Hey, get better, Damian. Stop being bad. What is he bad at? He's bad at wrestling, or
Yeah, no,
he's bad at something.
striking.
All right, it's bad at striking. Go into Serbia and learn striking. I don't know. Professor Ken can help him out.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
come to New York City and look up Professor Ken. Okay, that's it for the show. Any more violence you want to inflict on me, or are we good to go?
We're good.
You want to punch me? Okay.
No.
Please share, subscribe, rate, review, like, tweet, other things. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.